in a station area, certain policemen have their preference on who to call, which tow truck to call to the scene. And then you get another group of policemen from the same station, and they have their own preference on who to call to the scene, because they're getting paid from those tow truck drivers.
And I'm assuming if you're not their preferred tow truck, they remove you from the scene so that their preferred friends in the industry become part of that scene and they move
That's correct.
accident-involved vehicles from the scene.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Mr. John, you say that Mr. Naika is involved or is the leader of an alleged drug and tow trucking gang, and the same about Mr. Loftus. Do they have names, these gangs? I don't remember in your statement coming upon a
I've
name.
got the names of the towing companies that they run.
Yeah. You speak of gangs. Are you saying the tow trucking company under which they operate is also the gang?
That's well, I would say it's a tow truck industry, but when you look at the drug turf war, it's related to a gang. So it's basically, we just know them as the towing truck, by the towing truck name.
Okay.
Commissioner, if I can assist there will be evidence later as to the names of these gangs.
Okay. Thank you.
I can put on record at this stage that the gangs are the cartel, that one of them is called the cartel,
okay,
and the other is called the Hollywood gang. Mr. John, if we go to page 4, we've covered some of this material already. You refer to your CV, and you speak briefly about your history in IPID and your role in IPID. Maybe if I can ask you to pick up from paragraph 15. And maybe explain the difference between the Independence Complaint Directorate and IPID.
Okay. I joined the Independent Complaints Directorate from the 16th of September 2002 as the Assistant Manager in Investigations, Independent Complaints Directorate in KwaZulu-Natal. I have been with the Directorate from then till 31st of March 2012. Then the Independent Complaints Directorate changed to the Independent Police Investigative Directorate. So it was basically a name change and the change of the mandate of the Independent Police Investigative Directorate under the Independent Police Investigative Directorate Act 1 of 2011. So I've been in the Independent Police Investigative Directorate to my current date, and I am the Deputy Director of Investigations, and I report to the provincial head, of the office, who is Ms. Charmaine van der Sant.
And you set out in paragraph 16 the mandate of IPID. Can you take us through paragraph 16 to 18, where you set out the mandate of IPID and what your specific responsibilities are? Okay,
the Independent Police Investigative Directorate receives its mandate under Section 28 of the IPID Act, Act 1 of 2011, which sets out the type of matters to be investigated by the Directorate. Subsection 1 provides the Directorate must investigate inter alia any deaths in police custody. Section 28(1)(b) is any deaths as a result of police action. Section 28(1)(c), any complaint relating to the discharge of an official firearm by any police officer. Section 28(1)(a) F is any complaint of torture or assault against a police officer in the execution of his or her duties. As the Deputy Director Investigations, I ensure that the members from the investigation component are well versed in the mandate of the Independent Police Investigative Directorate as contained in the IPID Act, Act 1 of 2011, the regulations and the standard operating procedures of the Directorate. I am required to provide guidance to investigators on a regular basis on the duties pertaining to inter alia, the investigation of complaints, attendance at crime scenes and the completion of crime scene reports, identifying, securing, safeguarding, collecting, packaging, and forwarding of exhibits to the relevant forensic science laboratories, analyzing evidence, compiling departmental recommendations, reports to the South African Police Service, and criminal recommendation reports to the National Prosecuting Authority, and the finalization and archiving of dockets.
If we move over to page 6, if we move over to page 6, you talk about the increase in extrajudicial killings, and can you take the Commission through paragraph 19? I don't think you need to read out the details of the table that follows, but maybe summarize it.
Okay. Since 2023, there has been a surge in extrajudicial killings, which I put 300 cases, of which 77 cases involve the deaths of 149 people as a result of police action by the task team. Now, Commissioner, we dealt with over 300 cases, but I zoned in on the 77 cases, which is in the attached list. In this 77 cases, these shootings were committed by members of the task teams. And in this shooting, there were 149 people that were killed. Now, if one look at this, in these killings.
Director John, before you go to the table, just explain the concept of extrajudicial killings and how is it different from a situation where a police officer was defending himself or they came under attack, if there's any distinction at all.
Okay, Commissioner, we've identified through our investigation that in these killings, you'll get a shooting where 6 people are shot and killed. However, when you do an investigation at the crime scene, you find only 2 firearms. And the police, their modus operandi is that, or their explanation all the time is that the deceased shot first at them before they could shoot. Now, when we've investigated, as we investigated, we identified a few cases which actually contradict the version of the police. For example, you get a case where there are 9 people that are shot and you find only 3 firearms. Now, in the area that, in the KwaZulu-Natal area, especially your area like in Nanda and KwaMashu, the criminals normally, when they go into hiding, they hijack a premises. When they hijack the premises, they will keep the owners of the premises in the house, and they will inform the owners that you are not to phone anyone or inform anyone that they are in the premises. And whilst police are looking for them, they stay in the premises. And if police get wind that they are at the premises, the police go and they just shoot everybody. Even the owners of the house are shot. Because police indicate that they came under fire and that is why they shot. And we've seen in some cases, or in majority of the shootings by task team, they don't have proper case numbers where they were looking for the suspects. In some cases, they cannot even give you the names of the deceased that they shot. So with our investigation, we believe that the police are not doing proper investigation to arrest the suspects. We can look from the examples that we have that they go out to kill the person. That is why we indicate that it's extrajudicial killings.
And what is the significance of the number of firearms found at the scene? Twice you said that far fewer firearms would be found at the scene. Like you said, for example, 9 people are killed and 3 firearms are found. You gave another example.
Yes.
What's the significance of that?
Commissioner,
because even if there are 9 people, if there are 3 firearms, and if indeed those 3 firearms have been used or are being used, they may kill. So I'm not quite sure I follow the significance of the number.
Commissioner, in fact, with investigations, it shows that some of the, if we say 3 firearms are used and there were 9 people, then 6 of them were unarmed. And when you do the scene, when you investigate at the scene, you would look at the 6 of them were in different places in the house. When
but if you come under fire from where you are, and if you are not in the house yourself when you are shot at, you can't tell whether there are 9 people in there and there are only 3 firearms. So still, I'm not sure that you are answering my question.
I understand what the Commissioner is saying, but with the pattern that follows, in fact, in majority of our cases, there are fewer firearms found compared to the shooting, compared to the number of deceased that were on the scene. And in some of our cases, in fact, there is cases that are before the DPP's office for decision where we can prove that the deceased did not shoot at the police. However, the police have indicated that the deceased has shot at them. But we can prove with the reconstruction of the scene, we've proven that the deceased had not shot at the police.
All right, thank you.
Can I just follow up on your answer? These cases, you've given us 149 people in 77 cases. Have any of these been finalized? How many of these cases have been finalized where police officers, in fact, were found guilty for those shootings following on your investigations?
Commissioner, in basically one of the cases which is before the court roll now, I'm not sure whether it's in my bundle here, but one of the cases in my court roll, I'll give you the scenario, is that the police, and this was during the day, the police shot at 4 occupants of a vehicle. Let
me interrupt you. I'm asking a simpler question, which is, of the 77 cases that you've referred to, or that you're speaking to in paragraph 19, how many of them have been finalized and the police found guilty?
No, nothing as yet, Commissioner.
They're still pending matters. Pending. All of them are still to be determined by court.
That's
all right. Thank you.
Then from page 12, you detail the process that should be followed in the case of a police shooting. Paragraph 20, can you take the Commission through that?
Thank you. When a Section 28(1)B case, which is a death as a result of police action, is received by the Directorate, the supervisor of the group performing standby duties will engage the investigators to attend the crime scene. IPID is mandated under Section 24 of the IPID Act, Act 1 of 2011, to attend crime scenes. When IPID investigators arrive at the crime scene, they will take over the crime scene, and together with the SAP's duty officer will conduct a walk through the crime scene without tampering or destroying any evidence. At times, the crime scene is already being attended by members of the local criminal record center. IPID investigators are mandated to ensure that exhibits are photographed, indexed, protected, preserved, packed, seized, and transported to the relevant forensic science laboratory. Investigators remain in the crime scene until the bodies of the deceased are collected by members of the medico-legal mortuaries. IPID investigators are tasked to attend postmortems for the collection of exhibits retrieved during the postmortems and to make notes pertaining to the cause of death. Investigators are mandated to retrieve and analyze postmortem reports and present as evidence in the criminal and departmental proceedings.
And then you discuss the challenges that you encounter as IPID. Can you take the Commission through paragraph 24?
Okay. The challenges presented to IPID investigators pertaining to crime scenes include the following. Some scenes are not attended immediately due to the distance the scenes are from the office. For example, scenes within a radius of 150 kilometers are attended on the same day. However, scenes outside the 150-kilometer radius are attended only on the day the postmortem will be conducted.
Sorry, you appeared to state this categorically, as it were, but I would imagine that what you mean is that generally, because otherwise it sounds rather mechanical. For example, if a scene that's 149 kilometers from your office can be attended on the same day, why is that not the case with a scene that's 151 kilometers from your office? If you see what I mean.
Commissioner,
so all I'm saying is perhaps you should say generally.
Generally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, the problems that we have when scenes are far away is that the station normally contacts us, like maybe they will contact us half an hour after they receive the report, or maybe even an hour after they receive the report. Now, for us to get to the scene, if it's going to take more than an hour or more than an hour and a half, it becomes difficult, even for the police to be on the scene. But I did highlight it here in my. So some scenes are not attended due to the volatile area, and when members of the SAPS come under attack by the members of the public, these scenes are attended on the day of the postmortem. So if the scene is far away from our office, and we get information that the members are under attack because the community is attacking them, then we would request them to leave the scene, and we do a reconstruction when we do the postmortem. In some cases, SAPS officials, at scenes where task teams are involved in the shooting, almost without exception, there are delays. We did identify this in our investigations, and through the and when reports are made, we did identify the task teams generally delay, and we have taken it up with the commanders of those task teams, but we still have that delay in reporting. IPID has identified that media personnel are regularly contacted prior to IPID officials being notified of killings. There are instances where IPID learns of SAPS killings through social media posted by journalists. So when you look at your Facebook page, you'll see a shooting that happened even in Inanda, which is not even 30 kilometers from the office. You learn of it via social media, and when you get there, you'll see a reporter on the scene. There have been instances where members involved in shootings of the where members of the public are killed, they leave the crime scene with the firearms before IPID attends the scene. And this prevents IPID from uplifting primary residue from the members and complicates the matters with respect to the inspection of the firearms. So we do have that instance where the shotters, they leave the crime scene citing that their lives are in danger whilst they wait for IPID. So we do have a problem in that aspect.
Mr. John, what is the applicable protocol practically? So you have a scene, there's just been a shooting now. As between the subs and the IPID, what is the agreed rule of operation when that has happened?
Commissioner, the shotters has to remain on the scene because he is part of the crime scene, which means that we have to do a primary residue test on him. We have to inspect the firearm. We have to count the number of rounds that he has in his possession versus the number of rounds that when he came on duty. So when a member is not there, it's very difficult for us to deal with that aspect of investigation.
And who is responsible for calling IPID, informing IPID of the incident?
The first respondent that comes to the crime scene, once the respondent knows that the matter belongs to IPID, he's supposed to have contacted IPID. Section 29 of the IPID Act indicates that any member, the station commander or any member must notify IPID immediately of a case that involves IPID or falls under the mandate of IPID.
Okay. What I'm trying to understand is whether the people that must make the call, that are required and are obliged to make the call to IPID, is it the people at the scene who caused the scene, or is it their commander to whom they report that there's now been this incident? I'm just trying to understand the practical, how this plays out practically.
Okay, practically what happens, Commissioner, is that the uniform members who attend the crime scene contact the detective on call. So the detective on call also, at the same instance, contact the duty officer. So when the duty officer and the detective on call come to the scene, then they are the ones that contact us. Now, the delay is that if the detective and the duty officer delays in getting to the crime scene, we are already delayed in getting to the crime scene because we only get the report when they get to the crime scene. However, the members who work at maybe they are the members that work in the shift who attend the crime scene, they're actually supposed to be the people calling us also. Because it says that when they become aware that that crime falls within the mandate of IPID, they're also supposed to call us. When they call the duty officer, they're supposed to call IPID also. Sometimes you get to the crime scene, the LCRC is there before us because they call the LCRC, they call all the other role players besides calling IPID to the scene.
And the IPID contact, whether it's a number or a person, do you say every police officer has it as a matter of course? So if I'm at the scene where there's a shooting and I'm part of that scene, are you saying that every member on that scene who was part of that incident would know who to call at IPID?
Sure, in majority of the stations, they do have our standby number. We have a dedicated standby number, which are members on standby have their cell number. However, the station can communicate with the radio control, and radio control is aware of which IPID official is on standby. So there is that a number that they can call. They can call the radio control and inform the radio control that there is a shooting and we need you to get hold of IPID. So radio control have our standby numbers.
Thank you.
You referred to two categories of police officers. I think you said what? Duty investigator or what?
You get the Detective on standby.
Detective on standby, and I think you
And you
mentioned...
get the duty officer on standby.
Duty officer.
Yes.
You said when those two arrive at the scene, they are supposed to then call IPID. Why must they first get to the scene?
No, Commissioner, I just want to rephrase.
Okay.
In fact, they call us when they get to the scene. However, they are not the ones that's supposed to have called us.
But what I'm saying is, why must they first get to the scene instead of calling you immediately when they themselves get the call?
Yes, they're supposed to do that.
Okay, all right. Do you know why it doesn't happen? Why? Because you say they call you when they get to the scene, but they are supposed to call you when they get the call. Do you know why they only call when they get to the scene?
Commissioner, I believe they get to the scene to ascertain what happened at the scene before they call IPID. But that should not be the case. They should, when they get called and they are informed that there is a shooting by the police, and this is an IPID-related matter, they're supposed to immediately call radio control and inform radio control to call us.
Yes, because I would imagine with such matters, you don't want to lose time. You want to get to the scene immediately to start collecting evidence.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Just following up from that, Mr. John, as I read 29(1) of the Act, I mean, well, let me read it out. The station commander or any member of the SAPS or municipal police service must, A, immediately after becoming aware, notify the directorate of any matters referred to in 28(1)A to F, and 28(1)B is a death as a result of police action.
That's correct.
So it's a duty that rests on any member of the SAPS, including the shooter, him or herself.
That's correct.
And then what we see in Chapter 9 of the IPID Act, Section 33(3), there is actually an offence created. Any police officer who fails to comply with Section 29 is guilty of an offence.
Yes.
Are you aware of any prosecutions of that offence in Section 33(3) of the IPID Act?
We have opened cases under Section 33, contravention of Section 40, contravention of Section 29 of the IPID Act. Chair, in many of those cases, the SPP declined to prosecute, citing that the act was a new act at that time in 2012, 2013, 2014. They cited that we have to produce evidence that the member is aware of the act, because we cannot charge if the member was not aware of the act. So that was many of our cases were declined to prosecute because of that.
But, I mean, in the context about which we're talking, these task teams, where your evidence is we're dealing with a repeated problem here. Have you raised this issue? I mean, I presume that the commanders of these task teams are by now well aware of Section 29 of the Act.
Yeah.
And have you pursued attempts to prosecute any commanders who repeatedly contravene Section 29?
We have cases which we are investigating with the actual shooting in the list that I've provided. We have some of those cases where we were not called to the scene, totally not called to the scene, and only came to know about the scene a day later. So we have open cases, and those cases are being investigated together with the shooting.
And from my understanding of your answer to Commissioner Baloyi, none of those cases have yet been finalized.
None has finalized in court as yet.
If we move then to the next topic, which is starts at the foot of page 14, you're detailing the experiences that you encounter in relation to the cash in transit task team. Maybe if you can take the Commission through what you say in paragraph 25.
Okay, in the majority of shootings involving alleged CIT suspects, the task team under Lieutenant Colonel Deena Govender has been involved. The facts of this case bear a striking similarity. The consistent pattern is the following. Task team members in mask without any CPS. The members on most of these operations are wearing civilian clothing and or balaclavas or face masks without any SAPS insignia. Despite the fact that they have apparently chosen deliberately not to wear uniform that would identify themselves as police officers, the members always claim that when they approach the premises of the alleged CIT suspects, they introduce themselves in an audible manner, indicating that they are police officers. They then invade the premises of the alleged CIT suspects. They allege that they come under fire from the suspects and they return fire in self-defense. In most of the crime scenes where alleged CIT suspects are shot and killed by police, all suspects and occupants present when the shooting takes place are killed by the task team, leaving no witness to the operation other than the members of the task team themselves. No high-caliber firearms or rifles, explosives, components to manufacture explosives, or money has been found at any of the CIT shootings. IPID usually find only homemade firearms, pistols, or revolvers, which are allegedly pointed out by the police officers implicated in the shooting of the suspects. The SAPS commander in charge of the task teams is frequently unable to provide the names or identities of the suspects who are killed. Very rarely are they able to provide the SAPS case number in which the suspects or deceased are allegedly implicated in the CIT robberies, leaving a suspicion that the so-called suspects killed during these operations may not have even been involved in any CIT robberies.
Now, I have two follow-up questions. The first is, these are all general statements. Has IPID done any statistical analysis? Can you, is there anywhere where we can get detail in relation to these general statements?
Chair, in these cases that we are investigating, I indicated the 77 cases that we're investigating. In majority of the cases, you'll not have the name of the deceased. When you go to the crime scene, the commander of the task team that is present will indicate to you that the deceased are unknown. In some of the cases, when we get case numbers which are provided, we go to the stations, relevant stations, and we pick up the dockets. When we pick up the dockets, you will not even find the name of the deceased in those dockets.
No, I understand the proposition that you're putting forward there, but has IPID, as it were, done any statistical gathering of information so that you can describe, just at a simple level, how many of those 77 cases that we see in your table were there deceased people who were not linked to any dockets cited by the team?
In fact, in all those 77 cases, the 77 cases, the dockets that we peruse cannot link the deceased to the initial cases that were open.
In every single one?
In every single case.
You're telling the Commission that in every one of these 77 cases?
Because in majority of the cases, they are unknown. Deceased are unknown. So if they are unknown, how do you link them to a shooting? If they are known, then in fact.
No, I understand if they're unknown, they can't be linked
Yes.
to any docket.
Yeah.
But presumably they are identified at a later stage.
When they're identified at the later stage, their names are not in the docket. When we pick up the docket from the station, the names are not in the docket.
Do you mean in the station of origin where the case was opened?
Yes.
They are not identified as.
Cases, we interviewed investigating officers, and investigating officers indicated, I did not task anyone to go looking for a suspect because I don't know the suspect. So in the Commissioner, when they get this information about suspects in cash in transit or in cases of murder and so forth, they don't do a proper investigation to link those suspects to the case. And in the operations, they don't involve the investigating officer who is tasked with the docket. They just get the information, they plan an operation, and they go, and then the shooting takes place.
Can I just understand what it is you're saying is wrong? We, for example, have had evidence to do with drug busts, right? And in what we have had, at least according to the evidence standard, there is no first opportunity to identify a suspect, open a docket, have a name, investigate them. The story is we got a tip-off from crime intelligence officer that there is these drugs at this particular place, and we went and did a bust. So there's obviously no docket at that point when the bust is done, and there's no case number, there's no known suspects.
That's correct.
Is what you're saying that in respect of these cash in transit or these task team cases, that it is wrong that they act on a tip-off when there's no docket, there's no case number, there's no known suspect in advance? Is that
No.
the criticism? Is that a criticism, and is that if it is that a criticism that you are raising?
No, Commissioner, in these cases, there are dockets. There are dockets in these cases that are open prior to them getting the information. Because the cash in transit take place maybe a day earlier. And then they receive, so there is a docket open on that date when the cash in transit take place. There is an investigating officer that is identified to investigate that case. The information that comes to the task team is not provided to the investigating officer, or there's no communication with that investigating officer to say that we've received information that there are cash in transit suspects that's hiding at a particular place. For the investigating officer now to investigate that matter, they simply go out there, the task team themselves, leaving the investigating officer out, because at none of the scenes that our members went to, that they found the investigating officer. So the task team, they go themselves out to the place where they receive the information, and then the shooting take place. So in all these cases, there were dockets open prior to the task team going to the